Welcome back, everybody. My name is Andrew Taylor, and this is Stick With It. If you're a regular watcher or listening to our podcast, this one today is going to be a little different. We might say it is going to be a little bit drier than our normal human interest stories. Today with me in the studio, I have the AIPA scheduling expert, Anthony Mangan. Anthony, welcome.
Thanks a lot, Andrew. Great to be here.
So Anthony spoke to Mark Hoffmeyer last season. He'd only just started, but now you've been with us 18 months or so, Anthony?
18 months now, yeah. It's been a busy 18 months, but the service has continued. It was a seamless transfer, getting some great feedback on what we're providing to our members. So it's been full steam ahead, yeah.
So for our listeners and watchers, let's remind them a little bit about yourself, Anthony. Long-term career at Qantas before you joined us?
It was 25 years and started just in the retail doors, but before too long I ended up in flight operations and in what's called the IOC. Look, a good scattered experience up to disruption management in all the four streams of scheduling, which was cabin crew and tech crew, long haul and short haul, with a small dose of managerial experience-based performance management there at Sydney. So, look, broad range understanding of the contracts, the flight contracts, of course, but also it extends into IOC operations and also base performance management as well too. So it was a great 25 years. I loved working there. But look, a perfect fit this role as AIPA scheduler, and it's really the feedback that I've been getting and what have you. It's making me enjoy the role even more as we go forward. Yeah.
Good. So for those who aren't aware, AIPA offers 24/7 scheduling advice for long haul, short haul, Jetstar. So Anthony or one of his team is at the end of the phone if you have a scheduling query. But what we would like to highlight is don't forget you have a contract and you can read it as well. So
correct.
It certainly helps if you do a little pre-reading before you pick up the phone and ring Anthony.
Correct. And look, for long haul, it is tricky because it's such a large contract, you know what I mean? And that's what AIPA's there for. We're kind of like the roadside service for scheduling queries. So if there's anything that you find cloudy or ambiguous, that's what we're here for, be it email or the 24/7 line. They can call us and we can just go through things with them, clarify, and even in the rare occasions we need to intervene when there's decisions that the company makes that might be incorrect.
So as I said, this one's going to be a little drier than normal. So here's your chance to get up and grab yourself a plate, hit pause, grab yourself a cup of tea, and we're going to start our chat today on the long haul contract. Scheduling matters. Yes, indeed.
Yes, there's quite a few things to cover. And look, I'm basing this on primarily an education piece for the younger pilots that have recently joined long-haul operations. But most importantly, it's going off the back of the more popular subject matters that I receive at the inquiry desk, at the roster and scheduling line and email. So I've broken it down into a number of key subjects. We'll go through them bit by bit. We'll refer to the contract where we need to. And we'll might have a few sneaky little hacks in there as well.
We'll tell some jokes and some stories. So it's really important. So the language is complicated because our contract's complicated. This is aimed at everybody, certainly from the new joiner to the experienced pilot who doesn't know their contract particularly well, like me. So it's based at everybody, but you need to do some follow along in your books at home would be good advice.
Definitely. Look, it's there are so many clauses that can go down so many different avenues, Andrew, you know what I mean? So it's important that if you don't see it clearly yourself to fall upon the service that we've got so we can just straighten it out for you, but also in our publications that we make to members, it's important to clarify certain interpretations from time to time to make sure consistency is there. Look, that's primarily the main goal I'm trying to achieve, and that is consistency from crew scheduling and the company when it comes to, getting adherence with all of these different bits and pieces in the contract.
Well, here's the first juicy piece. Let's start off with something simple like patent protection, Anthony. So there's about 25 different versions of patent protection.
There is. Look, primarily offsettable patent protection is the one that everyone's familiar with, and even our newer pilots will be familiar with it. Look, it comes about through many ways, shapes and forms, but the most popular is when aircraft changes take place. You will lose a trip or trips, and those hours fall into offsettable patent protection. Now, it's important to understand there's a little bit of cloudiness in the contract as far as the opportunities the company has to recover the hours from you. So I think it's important that we straighten it out here as far as what the company and AIPA believe is the correct interpretation. Now, it's referred to as bites of the cherry. I'm sure you've heard that before.
Okay.
Or what is referred to as offset opportunities in the contract. So we understand.
I might have got a trip and I lost it because of the aeroplane broke.
Yeah, correct.
So the company pays me for that trip even though I haven't flown.
Mm-hmm.
and now I owe them what is called patent protection. My patent of flying is protected.
Correct.
Now they have an opportunity to get it back.
Correct.
So they've already given me the pay.
Mhm.
Now they need to get the work.
That's correct. They need to get the hours back off you. So the way they do that is with offset opportunities. Now, with offsettable patent protection and the setups there, they have 2 offset opportunities. Now, what is easily misunderstood is do they consider a standby duty as one opportunity and a duty as another opportunity?
Okay.
It's a common question we get, and it's a common pathway where I've needed to clarify it to members. Now, say, for example, a standby is given to you and you're subsequently called from standby.
Yes.
That is just the one opportunity, because it is referred to as in the contract as an opportunity for a patent or duty or a combination of both.
So they've assigned me a standby against my patent protection, and they've called me out now on that standby. That's one opportunity to offset the patent protection.
Correct. So example, 30 hours, and they've given you a standby and a trip, which equates to 20 or 21 hours. They've still got 10 hours left and a second offset opportunity to recover. So members need to bear that in mind, that those offset opportunities can take that pathway, whereas standby and duty just constitutes the one offset.
That's right. So a duty from a standby, one offset.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Terrific.
Members, don't forget that Sam Snyder is a great supporter of ours. Contact members at aipa.org.au for your discount code to use on all Samsonite products. So, Anthony, we're talking about offsettable patent protection. For those who've got their cup of tea and come back to joining us, in the middle of the chat, patent protection comes if they've built me a roster, they're paying me for a roster, and I lose some flying, for example.
Correct.
I then become patent protected. And these are old terms. A patent was a patent of flying, so it might be a 4-day trip. And in Qantas, we call that a patent. So I'm patent protected of, say, 30 hours. So then they assign me a standby against my patent protection. Now, is that one, or that's one opportunity getting the first part of the patent protection back, isn't it?
That's correct. So if the standby comes and goes and there's no duty called, then that is one offset opportunity done and gone. Okay?
What about if I then get called out off my standby, Anthony?
Once again, it is referred to in the contract as a combination of both. So if you called subsequent to that first standby that's assigned against the patent protection, it still constitutes one offset.
Right. So I've done my standby and the flying off my standby. That's one opportunity.
That's just the one opportunity. So a 30-hour trip, lose those hours, 30 hours of patent protection. A standby is 530. If you get a 15-hour trip of a couple of days or 3 days, they've still got some recoverable hours there at a second opportunity down the track.
Okay. So that's bites of the cherry you're talking about. So on normal patent protection, which is no fault of my own, they get 2 opportunities to recover their pay.
Correct. And it's important to understand there is an opportunity for the company to have 3 offsets, but that's only in the occasion of personal leave, such as sick leave.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's only, is that certified, or is that if I don't, or if I'm sick for the whole 4 days of my flying, I won't be patent protected with a sick certificate, will
That's
I?
an important question, Andrew. Yeah. So what Qantas protects you with regards to the average daily credit top-up of your sick leave. So the company protects you for the planned roster that is built for you. So take, for example, a 5-day trip if you're sick on that, and that's the roster that you were published with.
Yes.
And the trip you go is one of those trips inside that. If you supply a doctor's certificate, then there's no recoverable hours outside of the value of that trip.
Okay.
So that trip can come and go with a sick leave certificate provided and at no recoverable hours. So your patent line remains stable. Your A days are not subject to further contact obligations in the contract.
Okay.
So good question. Yeah.
What about rolling between, how long's patent protection last? A normal old offsettable patent protection, is that 1 roster? Is it 2 rosters? Is it 8 weeks? Is it?
Yeah, it just lives for the length of the bid period, right?
Okay.
But there is an occasion with sick leave and personal leave. It's important to understand there are big differences with those. So sick leave can have a 56-day lifespan, which can skip a bid period.
Okay.
So in the cases of you're sick at the end of a bid period, then you have a blank line subsequent to that. It does continue into that next patent.
Okay, so you can carry a sick leave patent protection through your blank line into your next patent in 3 months' time, for example, or 9 weeks' time.
Correct. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Now, it's also important to bear in mind the lifespan of multi-offsettable as well too. There's another patent protection named multi-offsettable, which is consequent to failures, but that also has that 112-day lifespan, which can skip the 56 days of a blank line. Yeah.
So I'm already confused. So in the contract, here's a good chance, everybody, pull out your contract. Patent protection. Let's have a look at that. What's that in Rostering manual.
RN43 starts off with RN43.9.
Okay, so there you go, folks. Pull out your contract, the rostering manual RM43. Because if you're confused just listening, imagine how I am confused just talking about it. So there's a chance to pull your contract out and have a look at that while we're talking. So what about then against patent protection, an offer of an assignment? Is there any duty there with straight patent protection? Anthony, can they offer it?
It takes so many pathways, and it gives the pilot some power as well too, as far as recovering the hours as well. Members can bid with their patent protected hours to gain a high priority.
So in open time biddings, you can get a high priority by using your patent protection.
Correct.
That's
and it's important to understand that when you qualify for priority 2B of open time, that in order to gain that high priority, the trip that you're bidding for must be of equal or lesser value. Now, that's a commonly misunderstood theory there, that if you've got 30 hours of patent protection and you want to get a trip worth 35, you are not priority 2B, as the trip is worth more. You fall into priority 8, which is bidding additional hours. So that's a common misunderstanding there. So to make sure you get the most out of priority 2B for bidding for flying, you've got to make sure that the trip is of equal or lesser value.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about then, so if they... Remember in the good old days we used to play that game, we're offering you something against your patent protection. You go, no, thank you very much. That's very kind, but I'm not remotely interested. And then they go, well, they're assigning it against my patent protection. Correct. Is that still a thing, or has that disappeared?
It is. No. The patent protection always takes the pathway of an offer assign. Okay. So the initial offer from open time is, would you like this trip to be taken?
It's always no.
It's always no.
Yeah, correct.
And depending upon the resources, look, Andrew, if it happens at the beginning of a bid period, they might have other crew that they can move on to. So on the very rare occasion, if you reject an offer of a duty against the patent protection, they will say thank you and goodbye. And that's the end of the call. But in most cases, as we all know, the move from an offer will then turn into an assignment. And that's where, once again, it moves to a different part of the allocation table. And you've got, again, more clauses in your contract there to either accept or decline that. Yeah.
And as I always tell anyone I fly with, always be painfully polite on the phone, because somebody's just doing their job. So
correct.
It's far easier to be polite than...
Look, it's such a robust structure, the open time allocation table, and you're right, they can't make mistakes. It's there, it's black and white. They have to follow it from step 1 to step 15 with every trip, every standby, every sim support they get. So there's no room for ambiguity, you know what I mean? So if it's properly used by the pilots and properly used by the schedulers, I'll have very little to do as a scheduler at AIPA. But I think an important segue into RN 43.6.5 Andrew, and also our members.
Yeah, of course.
Yes. Now, accepting offers or assignments, you have the right as a pilot at that point of assignment. You can drop the hours, reject the pattern at the point of assignment, but it does come at a cost. So you do get the last say in whether you want to fly or not against those patent protected hours. But in the case of RN 43.6.5, if you do decline that assignment, it's going to cost you the hours that are involved in that patent protected occasion. So be wary about that if it's just a standby and you're dealing with 20 hours. If you knock back the standby at the point of assignment, it'll cost you the complete 20 hours of the trip, of the value of the patent protection.
But if you had a hot date on Thursday night and you needed to be home, you can drop those 20 hours, and that then removes your contact obligations and your...
Correct, exactly. At the point of you being made a patent-protected pilot, you've got the immediate opportunity to drop those hours. Okay. Now, that's another important question which does get misunderstood as well too, because the company were having their own misinterpretations as well. So at the initial point of becoming a patent-protected pilot, you can contact crew scheduling and inform them that you just wish to let go of those hours. Now, that can sometimes project you below MGH, but it does set you up for what is now referred to in terms as a personal divisor. Okay, so you can drop those hours, your MGH reduces with that. Now, with the reduction of MGH, you're now back to a stable pattern line, but a little bit less pay. All right, so you're not assignable time available. However, there's a few catches that our members need to be made aware of. So even with last duty free day calls, you might think that your pattern line's stable, but the company can assign you a duty on your last duty free day up to company max, priority 12.
Yes.
Or if the right clause is out and there's no one anywhere to fly anything, you'll get priority 14. And that'll pretty much bring you into work no matter what your roster is projected at. But if you're doing a last duty free day call before an A day, if they need you, you'll come into work.
So that's really important. And there's a difference between last duty-free day call on a pattern line and a blank line. And again, that's another topic we could spend hours talking about. But if you haven't had a chance, make sure you go and read that section also about contact obligations prior to an A day on a blank line or a pattern line.
Exactly. There's so much with pattern protection, but primarily, look, for dropping pattern protected hours, our members can refer to RM42. RM43 goes through the various angles of pattern protections that are out there. But like I said, the more common ones we see with aircraft changes, losing of hours that way, and the majority of the pattern protected hours are offsettable. However, a few training displacements getting around these days as well too, Andrew. And of course, if you are displaced and lose hours from flying due to that, you're pattern limited. Now, a lot of the senior pilots will be familiar with this because it's happened to them frequently. But for our newer pilots, there's very, very limited opportunities for the company to recover those hours if it's pattern limited pattern protection. I recommend, I believe that's 4310, RM 4310 of the contract. Very restrictive. They've got to recover those hours inside the original window of that trip that's involved. Okay. So if you lose a complete trip of 4 or 5 days, you have a contact obligation on each and every one of those days as you roll through of that trip that you lost. And as each day goes by, if they can't find suitable flying within that window, standbys can come up, of course, but they've got to be mindful of the fact that if they're using those hours, it has to end within the sign-off time of that pattern that you lost. So as each day rolls down the track with pattern limited pattern protection, it becomes harder for the company to recover the hours and better for the members.
So I think we'll take a short break there. I'll let you top up your cup of tea. I need to clear my mind because I'm thinking about pattern protection, so we'll be right back after this break. Don't forget to contact members at aipa.org.au to get a discount code for your new Samsonite luggage. Welcome back. I'm Andrew Taylor, and with me today is our AIPA 24-hour scheduling guru who's joined me with Stick With It today, Anthony Mangan. Welcome back, Anthony.
Thanks, Andrew. Great.
Before the break, we were talking about pattern protection, and that hurt my head too much. So I thought we'd slip into something more comfortable. I've put my Ugg boots on here in the podcasting studios. So let's talk about commuting. So many of our pilots commute today. They don't live where they're based. So their domicile is somewhere to where they're different to where they're based. For example, I don't live in Perth and I'm Perth based. And we're in Sydney podcasting. We're all over. We're literally a transient workforce. So why don't we talk about, let's start with a blank line as a commuter.
Look, we see a lot of the commuters are just East Coast commuters, from Sydney to Melbourne and stuff, but there are also the ones that commute right across the country.
Transcontinental commuters,
so, indeed.
Absolutely.
So it's easy for some, it's much harder for others, but yeah, when you're dealing with commuting and managing a blank line, it's pretty tough. Look, the most important thing from an experienced scheduler perspective myself, back in those days, I can only recommend to have the tightest line and the most transparent relationship with the crew scheduling department.
So you pick up the phone and say, I live in Adelaide, I'm based in Perth, I'm about to start a blank line. I'm telling you, when I'm not in Perth, I'll be in Adelaide, for example.
Exactly. Yep. The more crew scheduling know about you, the easier it is for you to manage blank lines successfully, because they're not out to get you. Like we mentioned before, they work to a robust contract that's very black and white. So the ins and outs of properly managing and getting the most out of a blank line comes with having a good and successful relationship with the crew schedulers.
Okay. So we'll talk about a PSN aeroplane. So the aeroplane I fly has rotating seniority. So day one of the roster, they should start at the bottom and give the most junior pilot the standbys to start with.
Correct. And for commuters, it's important for them to get consecutive standbys. We understand that. And a frequent question I get, how many standbys can I do?
How many standbys can I do?
Look, once again, there's nothing really in black and white as far as what the company can do, what CASA permits, et cetera, et cetera. There is a cumulative duty limitation in FD 6.4 of the FRMS.
So that's another document worth having a look.
Definitely.
So the FRMS rule set. So we're having a look at that. And then flight and duty time 6 point.
That's 6.4.
Okay.
What's important to note is that the standby does not contribute to the cumulative limitations such as 60 hours and 7 days.
Okay.
So technically, we tend to think that gives the company a little bit more scope to go for that fourth consecutive standby.
So from experience, they'll quite often allow you to bid for 3 standbys in a row,
That's
but
correct.
not always 4.
No, that's correct.
Sometimes they will, sometimes
Look, that's
they
what
won't.
I've been seeing of late.
I
You know what I
agree with
mean?
that.
So,
Yep.
yeah. So, occasionally you'll get the 4th if you're lucky, but you can be more expectant of 3 in a row. And look, that I guess that's manageable. I've never commuted myself or anything like that, never have an association with it. But the question I get is, can I get a 4th? Look, it seldom comes about, Andrew. So, only be expectant of 3. But it's important to note that it does not play a part in those cumulative duty limitations. So when things are going good and there's plenty of crew about, you might see a 4th consecutive standby come up. But once again, look, an important question I think might come about is that you're coming in for standbys, positioning in from a short flight for standbys. Once again, the communication with schedulers is paramount. Okay, if you're looking at taking a flight over on the day of a standby, please don't do that unless you've contacted the ISU schedulers first and make sure that they're on board with your position, your status, and that, because sometimes with standby starting at 6 a.m., you might be on a flight from 6 a.m. to 6:30 or 6:46, 7 a.m. They need to contact you, and you need to be contactable when you're on a standby. So if you are positioning, make sure that the positioning has been agreed to with the crew schedulers, and that you know that they know that you've got that short blackout period there.
So a great way to handle that is say, I know I'm on a 6 to 6 standby. I'll be contactable, but not on my phone for 1 hour between 6 and 7. If you'd like to assign a duty, please put it on my line, and I will check it between 6 and 7, and I'll meet all my other contract obligations other than being not on the phone. So
correct.
That way they can put it on their line. You can check it on the Wi-Fi on the aeroplane, WebKiss, sign yourself off for it, turn up to the airport ready to go. And they know where you are, so it relieves a lot of stress.
Correct. But let's not. We can't get too complacent. So I recommend that the members contact the day before.
Okay.
To indeed request this of the crew schedulers. Okay. Because look, it does come with discretion. It's certainly not one of those things that I would check in for a flight and then just say to them, I'm getting on a flight and I'm positioning across, and I'm not going to be contactable for the next hour. So I would recommend making these requests with the schedulers the day before. And particularly when it comes to sitting the standby in your domicile for the full period of the standby as well. Okay, this all comes with permission from the schedulers. So keep that tight line with them. Sometimes you will get knocked back and you will have to position for that first of hopefully 3 to 4 consecutive standbys the night before. Okay, which a lot have to do anyway, Andrew. Yeah.
So another good one for reserve line holders, for those playing along at home, or blank line holders, is make sure your phone doesn't default to do not disturb. Or make sure it's on, not in flight mode, because you wake up 4 hours later. And
I can't tell you when I was in the desk there. And look, it's very clear that when you're a standby pilot, you're contactable immediately.
Yes.
And look, in the IOC, you're solving problems which change shape every 5 minutes. And whenever I was calling a standby pilot and they weren't contactable, it throws a spanner in the works. It really does.
Everyone gets a bit excited about that one.
Well, yeah, they do. Look, the ops controllers are putting pressure on you for outcomes, and you're there trying to deliver outcomes to them, and you're relying on the contact of the pilot. So when it comes to that, just make sure that you've got scheduling on board as to your status if you're not going to be contactable within that important period. And any of those sort of discretionary angles there, make sure it comes with the permission of the schedulers or your base manager. Yeah.
And the other one, of course, is daylight saving time. Make sure you know what time it is, where you're meant to be. And those are complicated things as well, aren't they?
Indeed. But look, I dare say when I was back in the role, I was always welcome to those inquiries because, look, a lot of the pilots would position on the first flight of the day.
Yeah.
And technically they're there with their uniform ready to go earlier than what a base position standby would be if you were to contact them at that earliest point to get them to work.
So the key is just make sure someone knows where you are. It makes it pretty simple.
Most definitely so, because, look, it's an important thing. You're dealing with schedules here. So you're required at the airport at a certain time. And if there's that short period where the scheduler can't make the decision and inform ops control about your whereabouts and a revised scheduled time of a flight, it's a letdown, and it probably could lead to other things as well too. So, just to play the straight bat with the schedulers and you'll be fine.
And I even think when you're commuting and something happens in your commute, airplane's cancelled, weather, the simplest course of action is always just pick up the phone and be very honest, isn't it? So I'm coming from Melbourne, I'm stuck, I can't get on.
Indeed. And look, I'm seeing a lot of reactive phone calls where they'll contact me first up, in order to say, oh, what do I do? And look, honestly, Andrew, the best thing, look, that's what the schedulers are there for. They're there, they're ready, they're trained to the minute, and they're trained to react with each and every minute. So if you've got a problem with a flight, anything like that, disruption, just get straight onto them and they can start getting on paper a recovery plan if it looks like your flight involved is going to be threatened. Yeah.
What about commuting on alternate PAX tickets, Anthony? Do we get lots of questions around that? I've got a ticket, I can't remember, I think I can use it, I'm not sure. Is that a big part of your business or not too bad?
Look, it's lightening up. It's lightening up. It used to be a very free-flowing arrangement. You know what I mean? Back in the day, old PAX, it's a great privilege and we never take it for granted, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
But look, back in the day, it certainly issues would go through to the keeper and there'd be a very broad range look at what's going on, whereas these days, things are a little bit more robust. But look, the rules are there as per the appendix as to how to manage all PAX tickets. And once again, it's a very straightforward procedure. So as long as you're doing everything right and by the book, it should flow seamlessly for you. But once again, just getting on the front foot when you get your rosters published, all those sort of old PAX actions, I'd recommend taking action on those as soon as possible. Or if you're on a blank line and you get assigned a trip that involves requiring old PAX, just get onto it and sort it out as quick as possible. Yeah.
So just a little note about old PAXing, which is different to staff travel PAXing, is the company will not give you. They have a duty of care, so they won't give you an old PAX ticket if it takes you outside the operational scheduling limit. So they believe that that's their requirement under their duty of care. So you can do different things on staff travel compared to an alt PAX ticket, and that's just the way it is. The company's upholding their end of their duty of care requirements, so that's why it's sometimes a little bit different. So what about, I'm on a blank line, I'm commuting, and I have an A day and they haven't assigned me anything. Can I clear that A day, get released, go home? That business?
You certainly can.
Well, there you go.
You certainly can. And it's RM60 for those people out there. You can have a look at your contract at RM60. This is very seldom used. And I dare say, look, in the majority part, for second officers, it probably doesn't play a big part. But for the more senior pilots, captains and FOs, this is an important clause to have a look at, particularly those on the A330. The RM60 provides an opportunity for blank liners to be asked to be released from contact. And like you said, Andrew, if it's a quiet day, you've got no duties there. However, you do have a contact obligation as per the A day and as per the award. You want to try to get out of that in order to get some things done or in your private life there. So you can ring the schedulers and request to be released. Now, the important thing to understand is that if they approve the release from contactability, great. That's the issue done. And off you go. You've got your contact obligation on your next day or, your forward contact obligation on your roster. If they decline you the release from contact, an important thing which they need to record is that in hindsight, that A day is now referred to as a duty day. Okay. Now, the important thing is, and why I stressed before it's important to captains and FOs, it comes into play with the good old CASA 2 and 7 limitation, Andrew. So certainly those guys on the 330 doing a lot of two-pilot flying, they can use RM60 to their benefit if they've got consecutive A days. You cleared 3 or 4 of them and or if you've attempted to clear 3 or 4 of them and they've been knocked back, come that 4th or 5th A day, it restricts the company as to the limit of flying that they can provide you. Technically, you've got to be back home in your base by that 6th day by 2200 to commence the 2 in 7 rest period enforced by CASA.
There you go. There's a great little pearl. Go and have a look at RM's 60, did you say, Anthony?
RM60 it is,
releasing from contract obligations. So I've commuted in and I've got an early standby or a standby and I'm trying to commute out. I'm trying to get released from my it might be so it's a 10 to 10 standby. I'm trying to get released at 8 o'clock to go home, to catch the last flight home. Again, that's just company discretion, obviously, isn't it?
Exactly right. And the way I managed it back in the day, and I'm sure it's getting managed in a similar haste, is we'll always protract that as often as we could. But the arrangement I saw was that the last flight of the day that would get the member back in their domicile, they could check in for the flight. Of course, this is in the case with scheduling's approval. They check in for the flight, and right at that very last moment when they're about to board, the decision is made by the scheduler pretty much as to whether they can walk on board or whether they still have to remain on contact. Now, look, it's all, from my perspective, it was reactive to the operation. If we had a stable operation, everything was crewed, everything was fine, there was no disruptions occurring, we had the leverage to do so. But if you've got a few issues, even weather playing a part in the operation, that can result in you being knocked back. So members have just got to understand that, look, the schedulers are there doing a job as well too. And if you get knocked back, look, you get knocked back, but you don't get anything in this world unless you ask for it. And once again, having a good relationship in a tight line with the schedulers always pays dividends, but get on those issues as soon as possible. Particularly if you need to get home on that last standby and for whatever reason. But if you request it nicely and you've got a stable operation, more often than not, it should be something that you might get approved. Yeah.
Today with me, and stick with it, is Anthony Mangan, the AIPA scheduling expert. We're just going to take another short break to allow you to top up your cup of tea again and for us to have a little relax, listen to our sponsors. So we'll be right back after this ad. Don't forget to contact members at aipa.org.au for your Samsonite discount code. Be a cool kid like me and have a fantastic new Samsonite bag. We're talking about sick leave, Anthony. I had a 4-day trip. I was sick. And when I use sick leave, it's personal leave really, isn't it? It could have been for any reason. I couldn't go to work for 4 days. I didn't get a doctor's certificate, so I've taken 4 days of personal leave. Mm-hmm. And so I had a trip over that time worth 30 hours. Mm-hmm. So I will owe the company patent protection in that particular scenario, won't I?
Correct, you will. Now, if it's a patent that you received with your roster build...
It's just normal old patent. I didn't bid for it, nothing else. It was just on my roster.
Yep, okay.
I couldn't fly it.
All right, so if that's a patent that came with the publication of your roster,
it did.
You are protected. You provide a certificate?
No, I didn't.
Oh, no certificate
I just
provided.
took personal leave.
All right, so in that case, you just paid at a sick leave credit, which is the divisor by 56 value. So certainly on a trip of that length, you're going to have some recoverable hours.
So say our divisor was 160, we divide it by 56, we then times it by 4, and it comes out with a number.
Indeed.
And so I might have 10, 12, 15 hours of patent protection in that particular case, right?
Exactly right. So it's an uncertified event. You'll be credited to that portion, which is calculated there, but you will have some residual hours. And once again, that will destabilise your patent line going forward in the sense that your A days forward from that will be contactable. So that gives the company the opportunity to recover those hours. Now,
but if I had a certificate covering those 4 days,
you are covered. RM 33.4.2 tops you up to the average daily credit value of the trip. So a 5-day trip and whatever hours are involved are completely covered by that certificate, and there's no residual hours owing. So a sick leave certificate provided, and the trip comes and goes, and your patent line remains stable.
What about my trip leaves on a Monday morning, but I call them on a Sunday evening to tell them I'm sick? Do they credit me or debit me an extra day sick leave for the Sunday night up until the Monday morning when I was meant to go to work?
No, definitely not. It does work different ways. With a patent line holder, it doesn't. Look, and I dare say it sort of falls back to the contactable position of your roster.
The flying was on my line. I was sick for 4 days. I provide them a certificate. So I was asking about if I call them on the Sunday night and my trip was meant to start on the Monday morning, I'm still only debited for 4 days sick leave, aren't I, for the length of the trip?
That's correct, and it kind of falls back. To look at it from a bird's eye view, it's as the contactable position of your roster sits as to where your sick leave debits will work. Okay. But if you do have an A day prior to a trip on a patent line, you can call at any time during that A day. You're not going to get a debit of sick leave for that A day. Okay, the debit will commence at the start of the patent.
Yep.
Okay, but there's so many variables there that I think are important to consider. Now, if our members can turn to RM 40.5, it's probably a clause that they can read in their own time down the track, because sick leave and personal leave is something that always reverts to what is a published line of flying, as opposed to the open time transactions and allocations that can come and go on your roster. So for RM 33.4.2, you're certified and topped up to the value of the trip for a published line of flying.
Yep.
But for any open time that goes toing and froing, okay, if that open time flying does not overlap where that original trip that you were sick on occurs,
Okay.
you're only going to get paid the divisor by 56. So very, very important to understand. I've had many questions where someone goes sick on a trip and then subsequent open time flying down the track occurs. They go sick on that open time flying that they've received, and they give their certificate for that trip, and they're expecting to be topped up to the full value of the trip. It doesn't occur that way. All right, you get the sick leave credit, of course, divisor by 56.
Okay.
But RM 33.4.2 specifically only refers to the pattern line that Qantas built for you at the publication of your roster.
So that if you have flying assigned against pattern protection and then you're sick out on or you're sick on that particular trip, that's more complicated. So RM 40.5 is a place to go and have a read.
Exactly. RM 40.5 details how it refers to a published roster and open time's not involved.
Okay.
Because, look, if you look at it that way, someone could be bidding for additional flying, going sick, and then getting certificates and just projecting over the moon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's very, very well written in there how a pattern line holder can't increase their projected line value through sick leave. Okay. So it all goes back to the protecting the values of a published roster. And but the differentials between getting topped up to the value of a trip to its average daily credit and just a sick leave divisor by 56 credit, it's very important to understand the differences between the two, because it's a frequent question I get on the scheduling line, and it's hard to understand.
Yeah. So there's some more homework for you. What about I've been sick for 7 days, Anthony, and I'm going to call well on the weekend, or it becomes complicated when we need a DAMI clearance, doesn't it, if we've been sick for more than 7 days?
Indeed. Look, it's very, very important to understand that, because the way the FAM refers to DAMI clearances, it's sick leave in excess of 7 days.
Yes.
But a lot of people look at their rosters, and if they've got a 7-day trip, they might get confused with that. Now, look, we've got to understand when it comes to DAMI clearances, the company will refer to the first day as being the day that you've called the company and made them aware of your illness. Okay. So that could be the Sunday before the Monday. If you go sick on a 7-day trip, which occurs on Monday, however, you've called them on a Sunday, but then you clear from sick leave on the Sunday, which is the 7th day of the trip, you are still sick for 8 days, and you require the DAMI clearance. So it's important to understand the differentials there. If that's still confusing for some, and look, it's always been a confusing point. Give us a ring, send us an email. We can further clarify that. But DAMI clearances are sick leave in excess of 7 days, but that is as to the point of notification. It does not pertain to the way your roster looks and the trips that are involved in it.
So we haven't had a look at this manual. So if you want to follow along at home, in the FAM, section 5.8, talks about DAMI clearances. So it's complicated, a 7-day trip, but if you call the day before, that's 8 days of...
Yeah, I had a recent example, and it was a perfect, scenario in order to bring up here in order to straighten it out. So it was a 7-day trip, I believe it was, or something of the sort. But anyway, it started on the Monday, or it might have been 2 trips actually, or a group of trips. However, the member presumed that the sick leave commenced on the Monday, or the sick leave event commenced on the Monday when the contact was made to the schedulers the day before.
Yep.
But then day 7 came around and he cleared, and the scheduling team advised of a DAMI clearance required, and which, concords with the FAM. They were correct, but an easy misunderstanding. So it's those sort of things that are important to understand when sick leave takes that sort of duration.
And if Qantas Medical's involved, it can also be complicated over the weekend, because they may not be able to get the DAMI to clear you on a Saturday or a Sunday. So you have to be mindful that the weekend may have a...
And I've heard the DAMIs are hard to come by these days. They're getting harder to come by as well too. So look, bear that in mind. But so keep that in mind with DAMI clearances, and also, with 21 days, it's the same sort of thing. When the company clearance needs to get involved, you're dealing in excesses as well too. So it's always talked about as the moment that you've notified the company of the sick leave event, and not the subsequent duties that might fall on next day as being day 1. Yeah.
Well, there's a great segue. So long-term sick, so welfare, AIPA welfare is fantastic with your support if you ever need them for long-term sickness. But I'm sure, so welfare comes to you and says, Anthony, we've had a member that's been sick for 30 days or 40. Then you're able to provide some advice on the process of what they'll need contractually to get themselves back to work.
Exactly. The long-term sick provision there in the contract is fairly straightforward, but there's also other questions that come with sick leave or anything like that, or just rosters in general, when a sick leave or welfare event takes place. So I can use my scheduling experience just to assist from my part. on getting questions answered as to what to expect with your roster, what to expect from base moving forward, in them managing you through the event. And so once again, we to and fro between each other, but always welcome to help with those sort of scheduling angles on welfare issues. Yeah.
So long haul consultative, as we said, we're going to keep just firing out the topics as I think of them. So we have a couple of our members that we have consultative once every bid period. You go along to that with Justin and Grant.
Yep. We've also John Pavlu's there as well too for long haul. And basically that's the opportunity for the association to hammer out any issues of contention or ambiguity in the contract with events that might have turned up in that bid period. So it's a great opportunity to get things straightened out. Because it's such a big and strange. I won't
complicated.
Say. Complicated is the word I'm looking for.
Strange,
thanks, Andrew.
but it's complicated.
Yeah, you call it strange from time to time because sometimes it befuddles you as to the way interpretations can be made. So, but look, we meet, we hammer out the issues of the bid period, and some of them can deal with individual scenarios. Other can deal with patterned events that are occurring, patterned behaviours that are coming from various parties, but at least we've got that regular catch up where we can discuss issues and bring them to outcomes, so there's no confusion going forward.
Well, things like we had complicated issue going on in London when there was you and I, there was John Pavlo. All of us got involved to try and get to the bottom of it, didn't it? So the AIPA team, we all come together when it's complicated.
Exactly.
To work out exactly, to protect our members, basically, isn't it?
Exactly.
Obviously,
right.
We're trying to make sure the flying gets done, but we're always trying to protect our members. So we've had a return to blocks in Los Angeles. The aeroplane's broken. We're back to the hotel during a disruption. There's no rooms, Anthony, I'm sorry.
Once again, here is something that needs to be brought to the attention of the IOC. You know, the IOC have got stakeholders there in CJM, the customer journey managers. I think that's what they're still referred to. But they certainly deal with disruptions with passenger bookings and what have you. But what's important for members to understand is that AIPA has a short list of suitable accommodation for pilots when they are returned to accommodation, and there's capacity issues. So if there's any queries with duty travel, you're checking in and there's no room for you, don't make a scene with the hotel or this or that or the other. Make straight contact with scheduling and let them know. And it's up to the scheduler and the stakeholders in the IOC to find the suitable accommodation that's according to the protocols of AIPA's hotel policies there.
And it's really easy for the captain, the senior crew member, to handle things like that because, they do listen when we call, somebody will listen.
Yes, indeed.
Hopefully. So, it's not always the responsibility of the most junior crew member.
No.
Quite often we encourage a senior crew member, can you please sort this out? And it's part of it.
You get a lot of patterns of one as well.
Yeah,
too,
that's
you know
what
what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely patterns of one. And a lot of the queries that I saw is just individual pilots that turn up unexpectedly because the proper administration hasn't been made.
Yep.
And look, it's a genuine oversight, genuine error. We understand that. But what is important is that it's a quick turnaround time as to the turnaround and repair of the issue.
That's right. Rest is important. So we need to get on to finding a room. So what about modern technology? Well, for some of it's modern technology. SMSs. So the company sends me an SMS with an offer of some work, Anthony. So would I like to go to New York tomorrow? And the answer is always yes. Is there a protocol, or is it like Sail of the Century, the quickest on the button wins, or is there a protocol around the SMS?
Indeed. And
contact?
People, we all would be familiar with it's priority 10 of the open time allocation. And look, there is a very strict process as to when it comes to that. Like, so obviously the company can't assign it just through the regular
So if I'm the first
provisions.
on the line, I don't necessarily get it.
No, definitely not. Look, it's if the company has a trip drop into the vacancies, and if we're within 2 days of the operation, so they're in the late open time window.
Okay.
If the trip drops in there and someone rings up and they haven't sent a text out regarding that trip, sure, it can go to whoever they desire.
Okay.
That's where the differential stands.
Okay.
But when they send the SMS, it's important to understand that priority 10 has been invoked by the company and there's a proper process to follow there. Now, if we refer to RM 66.2, it'll detail that process for our members. Now, let's say, for example, they can't crew a flight. All blank liners have been used, all pattern liners, no pay protection, nothing at all. They're at priority 10. Okay, they set the details up in a text to members, people participating in the bulk SMS list.
Yep.
So everyone's been made aware of the trip, its values, when it comes back. Now, the first hour is the collection of phone calls of willing participants who want to take the trip. That's the first hour. The second hour is for the job of the open time senior to then determine the senior bidder for it. Now, it's important to understand we don't perceive the company can then backtrack in the contract or the open time allocation table and then allocate that at a lower priority.
So if they've selected open time priority 10, that's the rules I've got to follow.
It's got to be a priority 10 allocation.
Okay.
So that's correct. So the first hour is a collection of bidders. The second hour is to allocate those bidders into a line of seniority. The senior pilot gets it. It's as simple as that. Okay. We had an instance where, priority 10 is used, a text is sent, they collected the numbers, and then the allocation was made further back in the allocation table, priority 2B to be exact.
Okay.
We don't consider that to be the proper way, and RM 66.2 properly defines that when a text is sent, it's got to be allocated to seniority once the bidders are in.
AIPA members, get your Samsonite nav bag like me. Contact members at aipa.org.au for your discount code to use on all Samsonite products. Welcome back to Stick With It. These are going to be some rapid fire topics that Anthony desperately wants to share with you. So Anthony, I'm going to hand over to you. You've got just a few moments. Let's talk about balancing of hours on a blank line.
Balancing hours on a blank line. Look, we try to get the company to respect a bit of seniority in priority 6. Okay, we understand that they've got the opportunity to balance hours in priority 6 and priority 7 of open time. We are pressing for members to get the company to just respect seniority a little bit more in the early weeks of the bid period. In order to allow weeks 5 to 8 to be where priority 7 and the proper balancing of hours to take place. We used to balance hours in weeks 7 and 8 easy. So, so we are working on getting some better results there with the balancing of hours in priority 6.
I've got my simulator, my cyclic coming up. That's tomorrow. What's a little hack there to protect my cyclic tomorrow?
Yeah, and this is for our newer members as well too. So it's RM 34.3, subclause A. Make sure you give the schedulers, if you've got a sim support or any duty of simulator duty for that matter, give the schedulers a call 90 minutes prior or inside 90 minutes just to check that the simulator is serviceable. From that 90-minute period from then to the sign-on for the sim, you are then protected to the value of MDC, 5 hours 30.
So if the sim breaks, you've rung up within 90 minutes, the sim breaks, you get paid.
You get paid, and look, you get at least you get the hard work of having to do the study for the sim for the subsequent time it's rescheduled, but at least you get that 5 hours 30 to soften the blow.
Awesome. Anthony, thanks very much. This has been Stick With It.